You step out of the shower, you wipe the fog off the mirror with the side of your hand, and there it is, that light hitting the top of your head the way it never used to. Scalp showing through where hair used to be, and down by the drain, a little wet tangle of what's left. You've thrown that avocado seed in the trash 100 times, 1,000 times. That big brown pit in the middle of the fruit you eat 3 mornings a week. You've been throwing away the one thing that could have cost you nothing and given you back 60 days of thicker hair on top. $0. 60 days. And the industry has known about what's inside that seed since 1973. And by the late 1980s, when they had a pill to sell you instead, they made sure you'd never hear about it. Let me tell you who I am first, because you don't have to take a word of this from a stranger. My name's Frank Moretti. My grandfather Joe opened Moretti's barbershop in 1946, right after he came home from the war. My father Sal ran that chair through the 50s and 60s. I swept the hair off that floor when I was 10 years old, got my own license in 1974, and I stood behind that chair for 50 years until I hung it up in 2022. More than 100,000 heads have passed under these hands, and now that I'm retired, I can finally tell you the things a working barber never could. Now let's talk about what this is costing you, because I know what it's costing you. I saw it every single day for 50 years. There's the money. The average man losing his hair spends somewhere between $300 and $1,000 a year on foams, serums, thickening shampoos, those little purple bottles you'd recognize from any pharmacy shelf, year after year. And here's the thing, most of it does nothing. You know it does nothing. You keep buying it because the alternative is doing nothing at all. But the money isn't the real cost. The real cost is the hat. It's the man who starts wearing a ball cap indoors. It's the man who steps out of the group photo or stands in the back row or says somebody else take it. It's a fella of 54 who looks 66 from the crown down. In a survey of 2,000 men, 94% named going bald as their single biggest fear about getting old. 94. Not money, not their knees, their hair. I watch grown men nearly break down in my chair over it, so don't let anybody tell you it's vanity. It's not vanity. It's your face in the mirror. Now stay with me until the end, because I'm going to read you something. There's a page in my father's leather notebook, page 41, written in pencil in his own hand, with a scalp mixture on it that he called by a name I hadn't thought about in 40 years. I'll read you the exact line. It'll tell you everything about why this got buried. But first, I want to take you somewhere. I want to take you back into Moretti's on a Saturday morning in about 1958. You walked in off the street, and the first thing that hit you was the smell. Bay rum, witch hazel, that green, sharp, clean bite of it. There was a row of chrome and leather chairs, and there was steam coming off the hot towel cabinet in the back. And here's what I want you to understand about a haircut in those days. It wasn't a haircut. It was a treatment. My father would sit a man down, and before the scissors ever came out, he'd wrap a hot towel around that man's head and let it sit, open everything up. Then he'd take his fingers, and he'd dig in, and he'd work the scalp, front to back, side to side, small, hard circles for a good 3-4 minutes. Every man got it. He called it the friction. And into that friction, he'd work a little tonic. Now, the shelf had all the store stuff on it, sure. Wild root cream oil, Vitalis, the Brill cream in the white tube. That's what a man bought to slick it down and look sharp for church. But that's not what my father rubbed into the scalp. He had his own bottle, amber glass, no label. And listen to what those old barbers saw, chair by chair, decade after decade. They saw that the men who came in weekly and got that scalp worked over, kept their hair longer than the men who didn't. They didn't have a study. They didn't have the word for it. But they had 10,000 heads of evidence, and they trusted their hands. My father used to say, Frankie, the hair grows out of the scalp, not off the top of it. You take care of the ground, the crop takes care of itself. I didn't understand that for about 30 years. Then the science caught up to him. So here's the thing you need to understand about why your hair is thinning. And I'm going to give it to you plain, the way I'd give it to a man in my chair. There's a hormone in your body called DHT. It's a form of testosterone. And in a lot of men, as they age, that DHT goes after the follicles on the top and crown of the head. It doesn't kill them off overnight. It shrinks them Little by little, cycle by cycle, the follicle gets smaller and the hair it makes gets finer, thinner, weaker, until one day it's basically peach fuzz and then it's nothing. They call it miniaturization. Think about that word. The follicle isn't dead, it's shrinking, it's starving. And two things starve it: the DHT choking it and the blood flow drying up around it. Because a follicle is like any living thing, it eats through the blood. The scalp is soil, like my father said, and blood is the water and the fertilizer. When the blood stops coming, the crop fails. Now here's where it gets interesting. In 2015, there was a real randomized study published in a journal called SkinMed. 100 men. They put rosemary oil up against minoxidil, that's the 2% stuff in the famous bottle, for 6 months. And you know what they found? Comparable hair count increase, comparable. The natural oil held its own against the pharmacy product, and the men using the oil had less scalp itching to boot. So what's the connection to that avocado seed you've been throwing in the trash? The seed is dense with compounds and plant oils, procyanidins, antioxidants that do two jobs at once. They help widen and wake up the little blood vessels feeding the scalp so the follicle gets fed again, and they carry the kind of nutrients that fight the inflammation choking that follicle. You're feeding the soil and clearing the DHT congestion around the root at the same time. You're not resurrecting dead ground. You're saving the ground that's still alive but starving. And that's the whole game. Keep what you got, thicken what's thinning, feed the soil. So why don't you know this? Why did my father know it in 1958 and your doctor never mentioned it? Let me walk you through it because the dates tell the whole story. Right up through the 60s, hair care in America was a service. You went to the barber once a week and he did the ritual, the towel, the friction, the tonic. Daily home washing wasn't even a thing yet. Most men washed their hair once, maybe twice a week, into the 70s. The knowledge lived in the barber's hands and the barber's bottle. Then two things happened. In 1988, the FDA approved that blood pressure drug that grew hair as a side effect and put it in a bottle as Rogaine. In 1997 came the pill, Propecia. And both of those, this is the key, both of them require you to use them forever. You stop, you lose everything you gained. That's a monthly customer for life. Now put that next to a mashed up avocado seed you make in your own kitchen for nothing. Which one do you think got the marketing budget? The dry shampoo market alone is about $4 billion a year now, projected to double by 2030, and that's before you count the treatments. Understand me here. The barber's ritual didn't disappear because it stopped working. It disappeared because it couldn't be put in a bottle and sold to you every single month. There's no repeat revenue in teaching a man to save his own kitchen scraps. Now maybe you're sitting there thinking, Frank, that's fine for a man just starting to thin, but I've been going for years. The top's half gone already. It's too late for me. Stay with me because this next part is specifically for you. As long as there's any fuzz, any fine hair, any life at all up there, you got follicles that are starving and not dead. And starving is something you can fix. So here's exactly what you do. Write this down. You'll be able to do it from just listening. You take one avocado seed, wash it, let it dry a day or two on the windowsill so it splits easier. Then you grate it, a plain kitchen grater, or smash it in a towel with a hammer and grind it fine. You want about 2 tablespoons of that ground seed. Put it in a small pot with a cup of a carrier oil. I like olive oil or jojoba, whatever's in your kitchen. Warm it low and slow, no boiling, just a gentle heat for about 20-30 minutes so the oil pulls the good stuff out of the seed. Let it cool, strain it through a coffee filter into a clean jar. That jar keeps in the fridge 2-3 weeks. You just made what my father kept in that amber bottle, and it cost you the price of an avocado you were going to eat anyway. Now for the application, and this is the part everybody skips, and it's the most important part. 3 nights a week. You take about a teaspoon of that oil, warm it in your palms, and you work it into the scalp, not the hair, and you do the friction just like my father. Small, firm circles with the pads of your fingers. Real pressure enough that the scalp moves under your fingers, not just the surface. 5 full minutes. Set a timer because 5 minutes is longer than you think, and most men quit at 90 seconds. Cover the whole top and crown. Leave it on overnight if you can, old towel on the pillow, and wash it out in the morning. 3 nights a week, 5 minutes a night. That's 15 minutes a week to feed the soil. Total cost, essentially zero. Now here's the honesty you won't hear from anybody selling you something. This will not grow hair on skin that's been bald and shiny for 10 years. That ground is gone, and any man who tells you different is lying to your face to sell you a jar. This is for thinning, not for bald, and it is not fast. You will see nothing at 4 weeks. Nothing. The hair cycle doesn't move that quick, and that's biology, not opinion. You're looking at 8 to 12 weeks before you notice the fine hairs coming in thicker, the shedding slowing down. 60 days is when it starts talking to you. And listen, I'm not a doctor, I'm a barber, but I've seen more scalps than any doctor ever will. If your hair's coming out in sudden patches or falling fast in clumps, that's a different animal entirely. That's a dermatologist today, not a kitchen remedy. If your doctor's got you on something, you keep taking it. This sits right alongside whatever he's prescribed. It doesn't replace it. And do me a favor, rub a little of that oil on the inside of your arm first and wait a day. A patch test. Nothing goes on your head undiluted. And if your skin doesn't like it, you stop. Simple as that. Let me tell you about a fella named Danny. Danny was 49, drove a delivery route, came to me embarrassed because his little girl had asked him why the top of his head was see-through. That got to him. Thinning right at the crown, that classic spot. I wrote this down for him on the back of a receipt. And Danny was a stubborn one, and he actually did it. 3 nights a week, didn't miss. First month, he called me griping that nothing was happening. I told him, Danny, give it the 60 days. And around the 10-week mark, he comes in, takes his cap off before I even ask. And there's this fine, dark fuzz filling in across the crown. Not a full head. I want to be straight with you. Not a full head. But the see-through was gone. And he stood a little taller, getting out of my chair. That's the honest result. That's what this does. Now let me read you that page like I promised. Page 41 in my father's notebook. Pencil, a little smudged now. Dated, this was spring of 61, I think. Hard to read the day. And at the top, underlined twice, he wrote the name he gave his amber bottle tonic. He called it the seed oil. Just that. And under it, in his hand, grind the pit, warm in oil. Work it in 5 minutes with the fingers, never the palm. The men who do it keep their hair. Don't sell them the store stuff for the top. Sell it for the shine, never the palm. 50 years I stood at that chair, and I finally understood. The fingers grip and move the scalp. The palm just slides over it. My father knew that in 1961. He knew the seed. He knew the friction. He wrote it in pencil and put it in a drawer. And the world went and bought a $4 billion bottle instead. The knowledge didn't disappear. It just stopped being profitable to teach you, that's all. That amber bottle held something you can make tonight in your kitchen from something you were about to throw in the trash. So do something for me. Down in the comments, tell me, what did your father or your grandfather use on his hair? Was it the Vitalis, the Brill Cream, or did he have his own bottle, his own thing he never talked about? I want to hear it. And I read every one. And if this was worth your 15 minutes, subscribe because the next one I've been sitting on for a while. There's a common breakfast food, cost you about $1, that I watched turn gray hair back toward its natural color, slow over a season. And the reason nobody talks about it is the same reason they buried the seed. I'll see you in that one. Take care of the soil.